Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Today we're unpacking a scene that, well, it plays out in millions of homes every single morning. We're going to step right into the tense battleground of the teenage bedroom. It's this place where angry, hurried morning words frequently just collide head-on with total, unyielding physical exhaustion. It's a dynamic that causes so much friction, right? But as we're about to see, it is vastly, wildly misunderstood.
I want you to imagine just for a second waking up feeling completely battered. Your head is spinning, your eyes are so heavy, and literally the very first thing you face are these heavy, resentful words echoing through your bedroom door. What time do you think it is? Why are you always so lazy, sleeping your life away? You kind of clumsily drag yourself out of bed and your chest tightens with this profound sense of injustice. Because the absolute truth is you never actually meant to rebel, right? And you definitely never wanted to be a disappointment to your family.
But see, in the rigid minds of so many adults, staying up late and sleeping in during those teenage years is just automatically branded as a sign of a careless lifestyle, or maybe phone addiction, or just pure laziness. And this profound lack of understanding, it transforms what really should be a safe, restorative sanctuary into a literal courtroom of judgment. It ends up burying young people under a really heavy shroud of guilt about something they literally cannot even control, their own biological clocks.
So here's the crucial point. We need to look past the surface, past the rush of hormones, and ask ourselves a seriously important question. Is this behavior actually laziness and conscious rebellion, or is it a supreme biological command that the body absolutely must obey just to survive and grow? Well, we need to decode this hidden truth through the lens of sleep medicine, and honestly, give these young bodies the vindication they absolutely deserve.
Which brings us to the science of sleep delay. Let's see how modern biomedicine actually builds a pretty airtight case for vindication here. Because when we really look at the data, the whole narrative of the lazy teenager just completely falls apart. Groundbreaking work by Dr. Mary Karskadon at Brown University actually proved that teenage sleep patterns are absolutely not a moral failure. No way. They are driven by a concrete, scientifically proven condition called the delayed sleep phase. Basically, puberty shifts the brain's internal clock 2 to 3 hours later. I want you to think of the adolescent biological clock not as some broken or lazy timer, but actually, it's like an ancient, exquisitely crafted pendulum clock. The artisan of nature has intentionally wound this pendulum back just a few beats to match the incredibly unique, demanding temporal flow of human growth. So those late-night hours of wide-eyed wakefulness, they aren't defiance. They're literally just the gears of that pendulum adjusting themselves, whirring away in the quiet dark to store maximum energy for tomorrow's massive structural breakthroughs.
And looking at how the body handles melatonin brilliantly illustrates the core mystery of those adjusting gears. Melatonin is, of course, the hormone that signals the body it's time to go to sleep. Now in adults, melatonin begins its release around 9 or 10 in the evening. But in teenagers, due to the massive restructuring of neural pathways happening in their developing brains, that release of melatonin is naturally, biologically delayed until midnight or even 1 in the morning.
So if you're a parent watching this, you really have to realize that at 10 o'clock at night, a teenager's body is simply not ready to shut down. In fact, forcing a teenager to go to sleep at 10 p.m. is biologically equivalent to forcing an adult to climb into bed and go to sleep at 7 p.m. Think about it. You'd toss, you'd turn, and your mind would be vibrantly awake, which is exactly what's happening to them.
Furthermore, we have to consider what's actually happening inside that growing body. During puberty, long bones are stretching, muscle tissues are expanding, and key brain regions are developing at an absolute breathtaking pace. I mean, this is a massive internal construction project, and it consumes an astronomical amount of energy. To pull this off, teenagers require an absolute minimum of 9 to 10 hours of sleep daily.
Now, we really need to change the framing we use to understand this. That overwhelming, heavy craving for sleep in the morning, it's not laziness. It's actually the body staging a protective strike. It's a biological imperative demanding the rest needed to heal, restore, and physically build flesh and bone. The body is effectively saying, hey, do not move me, I am working here.
And that leads us to the sanctuary of the night. Let's dive a little deeper, moving beyond just the physical endocrine system and looking at the deeply moving psychology behind this behavior.
Because, the biology is really only half the story. The emotional landscape of a teenager's night is equally profound. During the day, teenagers carry this incredibly heavy weight, parental expectations, teacher judgments, and that awkward, constant struggle to just fit in with their peers. They are basically forced to wear a heavy rational mask just to meet the standards of the adult world.
But the night offers a sacred and solitary sanctuary. When the world finally falls into absolute silence, all those daytime pressures and judgments fade away, allowing them to finally strip off that mask and just be their authentic selves.
So staying up late isn't just about playing around or being irresponsible. It's actually an unconscious effort to extend their only real window of freedom. It's an effort to find a space where they own themselves, completely free from the control of the adult world. And when we look at the modern context, we see this profound friction between rigid school schedules, which often demand these kids to be awake, alert, and productive by 6:30 or 7 a.m., and their totally immutable biological commands. This relentless daily grind literally drives the younger generation into a state of chronic social jet lag. We are, as a society, effectively using adult economic productivity metrics to judge and choke a biological body that desperately needs protection and nourishment, not an aggressively loud alarm clock.
So that heavy exhaustion you see pinning them to the mattress every morning, that's just the bill coming due. It's the inevitable debt of a soul that has spent its entire night quietly healing emotional wounds in isolation, just desperately trying to reclaim a tiny piece of its own autonomy.
This brings us to healing and moving forward. Because understanding this sacred, wildly misunderstood mechanism really is the very first step.
It's the first step to shedding that heavy coat of guilt and finally finding some mutual empathy between generations. Once we see the biology and the psychology for what they actually are, we can totally change the narrative. If you are a young person carrying this burden, I want you to stop hating yourself right now. Realize that your body is absolutely not broken. It is operating perfectly and wisely according to the true blueprints of nature. And to help align your spirit with your biology, I highly suggest practicing what we call the morning gratitude ritual. It's just a short, really simple mindfulness exercise right when you open your eyes. Instead of jumping out of bed all wrapped up in the negative energy of your parents' expected scolding, just pause. Focus your breath right on your heart center. Inhale the morning light to warm your soul and offer a silent apology and a really deep gratitude to your incredible body for carrying you through a long night of immense brain and skeletal reconstruction. Seriously, give yourself that grace before your feet even hit the floor.
Now, practically speaking, you can also protect yourself and help your melatonin release a bit earlier by practicing some good sleep hygiene. Things like turning off your electronic screens an hour before bed, taking a warm bath, or maybe drinking a warm glass of milk to soothe your nervous system. By doing these small, simple things, you can wake up, step into the sunlight, and reset your biological clock without carrying even an ounce of resentment.
And for the parents watching this explainer, this is a really gentle call for empathy. Please try to replace those wounding morning words with compassion. Offer a soft touch instead of a harsh knock on the door. Try to understand that your child is absolutely not lazy. They are simply expending their last ounces of energy just to grow up in a world filled with far too much pressure. Support their rest, because quite literally, their rest is building their future.
I'd absolutely love to hear your stories in the comments below. If you've ever felt misunderstood or labeled as lazy for what is ultimately a basic biological need, please share your experience so we can walk this journey of grace together. But it leaves us with one final provocative thought. Now that we truly understand the science and the soul behind a teenager's sleep, will we finally let go of the guilt, totally dismantle the courtroom in the bedroom, and give each other the grace that nature always intended?